وسام وياكم في فيديو جديد. واليوم حبيت أغطي على موضوع التوفل. بعض الأخوة اللي يسألوني عليه، فقلت أسوي مثل الفولو أب فيديو. راح أسويه باللغة الإنجليزية حتى بس تشوفون إنه كيف أتكلم وهالأمور هاي. وأنا هم أسهل لي إنه مرات أغطي هالموضوع هذا باللغة الإنجليزية، لأنه إحنا بدنا نحكي على التوفل فmight as well we speak English. So basically, as you may know, I've been here in the US for about 12 years. Before that, I was in Dubai. I studied my last year of high school. And prior to that, I was in Iraq. So I spent most of my life in Iraq. And this video just kind of gives you a little bit of some heads up about what I've been through, what's expected of you, and some of the tips I wanted to share with you just to help you master English, and what are the things you can do to help you succeed with the TOEFL exam. So if you are applying to a dental school in the US or any other place, you want to score high on the TOEFL exam. So if you're applying to a dental school, you want to score of 100 and above. To score 100, that means you need to score high on like all the 4 categories of the exam: reading, speaking, listening, and writing. Any score that is low will basically bring the whole test score down. So whether you didn't do well in writing or speaking or listening, that will effectively lower the rest of the score. So what I mean is you need to be good at all the 4 sections of the exam. You can excel at some of them, but you want to basically be good at all the 4, because just one section that you score low will make your score below 100. So the exam itself is 120 points. So that means if you score 25 in each section, you get to 100. So what you can do is if you score highly in some sections, that will kind of compensate in the other ones. So what are the tips I can share with you to help you master the TOEFL exam and to score high? So this is what this video is all about. In the US, in general, they don't really care much about your accent, because they expect you, coming from overseas, you're gonna have accent no matter what, unless you were born in a native speaking country like UK, Australia, Canada, or the US, your chances of speaking fluently is very, very low. Some private schools abroad may have a native speaker that teach kids how to speak properly, but for the most of us, we grew up not in a native speaking language, so we speak Arabic most of the time. And like usually Americans don't really care about your accent. I mean, if you have a good accent, that helps them understand what you're saying, but at the end of the day, what they want is to be able to understand what you're saying and you understand what they're saying. So there's this certain expectation you have to meet in order to function in an American classroom. So the whole point of this TOEFL test is to make sure that the student who comes and study in the US has a good grasp of the language. And depending on whether you're going to a college, to the dental school, or a pharmacy, each discipline or each specialty or each basically job will require a certain level of English. So pharmacy, they have totally separate requirements than dentistry. They have a really high requirement that you need to achieve in order to get licensed. Does that make sense or fair? I don't know. It's just the way things are. All you can do is make yourself really good so you can basically succeed. In dentistry, the reason why they ask for 100 for different reasons. First, they rely on the GPA. So if you have a good GPA, that helps. But if you don't have a good GPA, then at least you need to score high on the TOEFL test so you can basically compete with other students, so you get the seat and get admitted into a program. What that means is having a high score on the TOEFL will give you a higher chance to get admitted. But that doesn't mean if you score low, you won't get accepted. It's just that it's gonna lower the chance or the probability of getting accepted into a program. So you can apply to a program, let's say not a DDS program, or even a DDS, and you score 98, 95. You may still be able to get admitted, but probably they're gonna look at somebody who scored 103, 105, something like that, to give them a better chance. Why? Because at the end of the day, whoever is looking at those candidates, you gotta basically select who is the best. So they rely on the TOEFL score as a criteria for admission, because at the end of the day, if somebody comes and asks me, Wissam, why did you accept so and so and you didn't accept somebody else? Well, I will say, look, they have a good GPA, they have a good TOEFL score, so that's why I chose them. And the other thing is that the national board exam has no scores. Back before 2010, it used to have scores, at least I think for part 1. Part 2 got cancelled before that, but part 1 and part 2, they used to have scores. Now it's an integrated test. They got rid with all the scores. I don't want to get into the details because our topic today is to talk about the TOEFL exam. So the first thing that helped me with English back when I was in Dubai was we registered. My dad took me to an intensive course at the Language Institute in Sharjah. So if you're in United Arab Emirates, you can search for language training and get into an intensive course. So they have 2 types of courses. You can either go to the standard course, which I think is 3 months, or you can go to an intensive course. Basically, they compress everything into a 1-month course, really heavy course, and requires a lot of work from your part to succeed. But back then, it was summer. I was applying to the University of Sharjah. They demanded back when the test was paper-based to score 500. So as you know, it used to be paper-based, then moved to computer-based, then went to internet-based. I'm talking about 1999. So it's been over 20 years since I took the first TOEFL test. And out of 267 students, only 8 people passed. I was one of them. And I didn't think like it was weird, but actually the person who was there at the university back then, she asked my dad, like, where did your son study English? Which private school? So my dad told her, no, my son went to a public school. She said, this is impossible. Nobody goes to a public school in UAE and passes the TOEFL test. This is highly unlikely. And then he told her, well, my son was in Iraq before that, and English in Iraq was good. So I don't know how things have changed, but the problem with the way we studied English is that it focused too much on grammars. So it's all about like past, present, continuous, past, present, whatever, and doesn't teach you much about writing or speaking or even listening. So reading, yeah, but even not that much. So that course helped me a lot. What you can do, you can take that course, wherever you are. If you're like in Jordan or Egypt or anywhere else, you can register at the British Council if you have such thing and take an intensive course. That helps a lot. Now, the other thing you can do is to take, try to download the Barron's IBT. Barron's IBT is a really good way to take the TOEFL test at home. So it gives you like 4 sample tests, and you can basically test yourself or assess your language, before taking the TOEFL exam. So you don't end up spending $200 or something like that, and then you fail the test. So I would say go with Barron's IBT. It helps a lot. So they give you about 4 sample tests, and try to do the one with the timing. So timing the exam is really critical. TOEFL is not only about like knowing the language, but also doing the test on time. So you can't really spend too much time reading or trying to basically solve the problems, because you're gonna run out of time and then you're gonna miss points. And you don't want to miss points. You don't want to miss questions. You want to score the best you can do. So taking the IBT Barron's will help you at least prior to the exam to at least know about the test, what's expected, how the formatting is. You can download it online. So if you search in Google, I'm sure you can find something. Now, Taking the test itself will give you some idea of where you are. Like, let's say you score 75, you know that you need a lot of work to get to 100. If you scored 90, well, yeah, you're almost there. You know, you just need to spend a little bit more time. So taking the test at least the first time will give you some idea of roughly where you are. And again, remember, this is a standardized test. So most likely, if you take it again, you may score within the same, level. So it could be one time, let's say 85, the second time 90, then 82 or 87. So each time you're gonna take it, it's gonna kind of go up and down, but you're not gonna go, say, from 85 to 100. This is like a really big gap, So if you are 98, for example, maybe you take it again, you score 100. So that's what I'm trying to say. So basically you need to improve on all the 4 sections of the exam. So let me look at the thing. So TOEFL is not IELTS. TOEFL is totally different from IELTS. IELTS is good for Canada, good for the UK, good for Australia, but it is not accepted in the US. US, they want the TOEFL test, and that's it, period, And also, remember that TOEFL is a lot easier than the GRE. The GRE, or the Graduate Record Exam, is an exam you need to take if you're applying for some residency programs, like, let's say, orthodontics, maybe periodontics, prosthodontics, all these disciplines, they request a GRE. GRE is really hard, really, really hard. If you think TOEFL is hard, wait till you see GRE. I've never took the test, but I've heard a lot about it. It has 2 sections, a math section and an English section. And I kid you not, GRE English level is another thing. So at least you want to focus on the TOEFL, and that's it. If you want to take GRE, this is out of the scope of this video, so I'm not gonna cover that here. So again, our education focused mainly on grammars, and unfortunately less about speaking, writing, and other things. So whether you've been to a public school or a private school, it doesn't really matter much, because you still have to take the test, and you can succeed either way. When it comes to accent, Americans, again, don't care much about accents. They really want to understand. So if you have a very thick accent, they may want you to maybe lessen that a little bit, so it's easier on the American ear. If you have a very heavy accent, so if you say Z instead of ith, or S instead of ith, then that kind of changes everything, So you want to be able to speak properly. You cannot just speak heavily, because that will affect your score. For example, so I've been in the US, and the words we learned back home are different from how they pronounce it here. So let me tell you some funny things. So composite, we say composite. Here they say composite. Or enamel. Enamel and dentin. It's not enamel, it's enamel. So enamel versus enamel. Composite versus composite. Hospital versus hospital. Stop versus stop. So we're more like on the British accent, but here it's different. So at the end of the day, if you say hospital and they understood it, that's fine, But certain things they don't understand here in the US. So if you go to a restaurant and say, oh, give me a burger, take away. It's like, what do you mean? Like, they don't know what takeaway is. You have to say to go. So I need like a burger to go. To go means takeaway. So we learn some certain things overseas. Here, no, they don't know it. You would think that they would know, but no, this is a British phrase. So what are words and what are phrases? Words is just the word itself. A phrase is multiple words. So when you need to memorize things, it's a lot better if you memorize a phrase or the whole sentence. So let's say you want to talk about something, you want to write something. It's a lot easier whether accent-wise or speaking-wise or writing-wise to be able to put the whole sentence down. This is really beautiful. So in English, you want to memorize sentences. You don't want to memorize words. You need to know where this word comes in a sentence. So if you can memorize the sentence, you can basically say it or write it. So it kind of helps to memorize sentences. So I would highly encourage you to learn how the whole sentence will be. So you know when you speak a certain word, how it needs to, where it's gotta go, you know. So again, I've spent 12 years in the US. It was very hard in the beginning. Like I would ride the bus and say, how do you do? And then he would reply back, hey, how you doing? You know. So again, this is American way versus the British way, you know. So again, I grew up in Iraq. I've learned through textbooks, you know, through English courses that we took to speak more like British and less like Americans. One thing I learned that helped me speaking to people here, two things. Number one, you want to speak slowly. You don't want to speak fast. If you speak fast, that tends to make it harder for them to understand what you're saying. So when I'm talking to you right now, I'm not talking very fast. You can talk very fast and say a couple things and these things, but that takes time. So my advice for you when you take like the TOEFL exam is to speak slowly. You don't want to speak very fast. So that kind of helps them understand what you're saying. The second thing, which I had no clue about, is called intonation. So in English, unlike Arabic, there is something called intonation. So basically, you don't say the word or the sentence at the same level. Intonation meaning that you stress certain parts of the word or the sentence. So in Arabic, we just speak flat. We just say like, وين رايح اليوم؟ شو سويت بالدوام؟ شو حكيت؟ شو سويت؟ شو كليت؟ كذا هاي. بالانجليزي لا، يعني عندك قطع من الكلمات لازم شوية تجرها، لأنه من الجرها راح تحط تأكيد أو توكيد على هالكلمة هاي، سواء الكلمة نفسها أو الجملة نفسها. فمثلا خلينا نقول I want to go to school. Okay, so this is like no emphasis. But when you say I want to go to school, now you stretch to school. Or I want to go to school. When you stretch I, then the emphasis is on I rather than the school itself. So these subtle things or small things put a lot of emphasis or changes the meaning of what you're trying to say. So conveying your meaning is important. So it took me a while to figure this out. So you need to stress certain parts of the words. That's why when I speak, you know, I tend to stress things, you know. So let's talk about English language, you know. And you can pause, think about what you're trying to say, and then continue, rather than saying, like, I don't know, stupid things or making mistakes, you know. And again, it comes with time. So my advice for you, if you really, really want to improve your language, is to record yourself on a video camera, whether your phone or a dedicated camera, and then you want to go and play back the video. Listen to yourself. See your face, your body language, you know. So recording YouTube videos help me a lot, guys. Like, it really helps a lot if you do a lot of video recording. That's why you see people on TV, like, you know, المذيع والمذيعة لما يتكلمون مسيطر ويضحك وتحس confidence عندهم. ليش؟ لأنه هذول دائما يتكلمون باللغة العربية مثلا أو باللغة الإنجليزية، فصار عندهم خبرة كثيرة، فعلى السريع تلاقيه يعرف يتصرف، يعرف يتعامل، عنده سرعة بديهة، ردة فعل. هاي إذا أنت أول مرة جاي تحكي قدام الكاميرا, it's gonna be very hard. It's gonna be really hard to do that. So my advice, get a camera, record yourself, and then play it back, see the mistakes you do. You're gonna pick it up. It's gonna be a lot easier if you just keep doing this step. So right now I'm talking to you, but I've done it so many times. So one of the benefits of doing those YouTube video for you guys or somebody else is that it made me a good speaker, you know. Same thing if you give lectures. If you say, like, you go and present a lecture, give a presentation about a topic to a group of people, this is public speaking. So public speaking helps a lot with that. But, you know, you don't have the chance to do it in front of a lot of people, and you don't want to embarrass yourself too. So Recording yourself with a video camera is a lot easier, less embarrassing, and it's a good way to train how to speak, Let's keep going. So, expressing yourself can take time. When I arrived to the US, I could talk about dentistry, but I couldn't talk about myself. I didn't know the words, how to say certain things that affected me personally, my feelings, my plans, whether I wanted to do something, take time off, all these things. It took me a while to figure this out. So don't think like English is just about studying. You open a website or a textbook, okay, let's sit down and study for the TOEFL exam. Language is about talking, about practice, immersing yourself. You want to immerse yourself in the language. So my advice is, if you are preparing for the TOEFL exam, you don't want to spend too much time watching Arabic dramas or TV or news. You want to immerse yourself in English news. So you want to maybe listen to Fox News, CNN, National Public Radio or NPR, PBS, National Geographic, Discovery Channel. There's a lot of things you can do. Guys, back in 2000, there was no internet, there was no YouTube, no nothing. It was really hard to study and prepare for an English language exam. There were no resources, only some CDs. Even MP3 was hard to get access to. Now, it's a lot easier with the internet. You can have your iPhone or Android and watch YouTube, listen to anything while you're on the go. Back then, that was not possible. So now, I feel personally, it's a lot easier to learn English than, let's say, 20 years ago. So there is no excuse for not being able to do a good on the exam. That's how I feel. Personally, that's how I feel. So, again, the TOEFL exam prepares you to be in an American classroom. That's the whole point. So if you're becoming a student here, the more you're good, the easier it's going to be when you start the school. So don't think about the TOEFL test as just being able to score, but it's a good way to improve your level and the skills in English. So if you want to talk to somebody, if you want to give a presentation, if you want to write an article, submit a thesis for publication, you want to have good English skills, man. You don't want to just pass an exam and I don't want to worry about English. English is with you. If you're living in the US, you speak English all the time, you communicate with people in English, you learn everything in English. Come on. If you want to learn about dentistry, pharmacy, medicine, engineering, everything is in English. So imagine, what if you had to take the Swedish language exam, or the Norwegian language, or Deutsch, or Dutch? So English is a lot easier, folks. It's even easier than Japanese, or Chinese, or even Arabic for people to learn. So I feel like, there is really no excuse for not learning English. So the more time you spend to study and prepare and learn, whether you speak, listening, writing, or reading, the easier it's going to be. The way I like to do reading is I read loud. So I want to basically read loudly, and it's going to help me, kind of listen to myself as I'm talking. And slowly, gradually, your language will improve. I remember back then when I gave my first lecture at Case Western Reserve, I had a student class of 68 students, and man, that was really hard, presenting to an American classroom. And those students, they paid full tuition. It's a private school, and then you're out there giving them a lecture about dental x-rays or radiology. And I remember when I was giving the lecture, I think I mispronounced one of the words, and then all of a sudden one of the students in the class corrected me. And then there was this pause, it was really quiet. I stopped talking, everybody was quiet, they wanted to hear my reaction. What am I gonna do? Am I gonna try to pick on them? Or, I don't know, say something? So after about maybe 10 seconds, I said the word again the way the student pronounced it, and then I kept going, and that was it. So I think they wanted to make fun of me, but genuinely, I think it's hard. You know, if you're an American student who paid full tuition, having a faculty or a professor with a thick accent where they cannot really understand you, it's tough on students. Like, try to put yourself in their shoes and imagine yourself in that situation. The good thing about Americans that they are supportive. So even if you say like things in a weird way, they don't make fun of you. They don't kind of like in Arabic we would make fun of people, but in English they don't do that. They try to support you and they want you to succeed. So that's the good part about, you know, being in the US. I feel like it's a lot easier being here than, let's say, somewhere else. And again, knowing English helps you overall. So whether in the future you want to participate in a project, you collaborate. So if you want to work with somebody from Europe or Asia, everybody's gonna have to talk in English so that everybody understand everybody. So I'm almost done with the video. One thing that I heard was about some people who are in the US. They said if you get an American girlfriend, it helps you a lot with your English because you're going to be forced to speak English. So if you're in the US, you can think about that. That can be a good opportunity. If you're dating a Mexican girlfriend, I don't think it's going to improve your English, but that's just something to consider. Now, writing took a while of me to learn. I would say going to Belgium and doing my master thesis in English and having a faculty or a co-promoter, he was in the US, helped a lot. So I would send my manuscript in Microsoft Word and then it comes back with the track changes and then I see all these red lines, you know. So the faculty or the professor basically went through the whole thing and changed a lot. And he said, sorry if I make you look bad, but this is how it should be, you know. So he tried to put it in a good way so I don't feel offended. But I learned a lot because then I can see what I wrote and then what the right way to do it. And then it's like a contrast. And then you keep going sentence by sentence. And then I correct, add a little bit, send it back to him, send it back to me with more corrections. And then that's how I really improved with writing. Writing also, you want to focus on the subject itself. So I would say even in Arabic, if somebody asks you to cover a subject, it's gonna be hard. يعني احنا نقول احنا بالعربي ما نعرف نكتب، شو راح اكتب لعد بالانجليزي؟ لأن احنا عادة التعبير مالتنا باللغة العربية مو كويس. هم عادة هنا بالهاي سكول يدرسوهم الرايتنج وهالشغلات يكتب essays، فأنت يحتاج تكتب essays. دائما تسمع كلمة essay. So you need to learn how to do essays. That helps a lot with the writing. So you start with an introduction, then the body of the text, which basically highlights the main points. Then you end up with the conclusion. And it doesn't matter what you think. لأن عادة بالتوفل راح يجيك شخص قال A وشخص قال B. أنت شو تريد A لو B وشنو النقاط اللي تدعم إنه ليش اختاريت هالشيء هذا. فهو ما عنده مشكلة إنه A صح أو B صح لأنه doesn't matter. هو بس يريد يشوفك أنت شلون دا تكتب وشلون دا تفكر and how you are listing your ideas and supportive basically lines. So هذا writing, it took me a while to do it. It takes time. Writing takes time. And every time you go back, you're gonna find you put is instead of are. خابط البلورال والسنجل singular والهاد والهاز والمدري ايش. يعني هاي تاخذ وقت يلا صراحة تضبط. So again, انت تريد maybe watch American dramas, you want to improve your score, حاول تجيب سكور اكثر من 100 لان هذا راح يساعدك في القبول في الجامعات. ما طول عليكم، اتمنى يكون الفيديو استفادتوا من عنده. يعني my goal again انه trying to help. واللانجوج يعني بحر كامل ياخذ يجوز طول حياتك الله تتعلمه ويوميا تكتشف شيء جديد. بالمناسبة الجوجل عندهم هم طريقة انه تتلفظ بها الكلمات. اذا تكتبها بالجوجل راح ينطيك طريقة انه تسمع الكلمة وتسجل وبعدين يرجع يعيد لك اياها ويقول لك وين غلطت. فاذا عجبك هالفيديو لا تنسى تضغط لايك ونشوفكم في فيديو قادم يا شباب. تحياتي، كان وسام معاكم. مع السلامة.